Hello, welcome to AQA Accounting. In this session, I'll be going through a 6-mark question. So on paper 2, 2021, question 15.3. So I've gone through the calculation question in a previous video, so you can refer to that, and I'll upload this separately onto YouTube. So just a quick skim over the question, if you've done it a while back. So this was a question about two factories. Question 15.1, you had to work out a break even. And then 15.2, you had to produce a marginal costing statement. So marginal costing is the topic. And then you've got the 6-marker, which is about where the directors have reviewed both the results, factory A, factory B, and one director has raised some issues with break-even analysis as a decision-making tool. So the question is, assess the usefulness of break-even analysis in deciding which factory to open. Okay, so it's a break-even question, benefits, drawbacks, really. The question is, assess the usefulness. So you want to have 2 paragraphs. One paragraph mentioning about why it may be useful, and then another paragraph making an assessment about why it may not be so useful. Okay. So that's the nature of the question. Now, obviously, I've mentioned to you before, for a 6-marker, ideally, you want to have a contrasting argument for and against. You need to have a clear, complete chain of analysis, so fully extend your points and explain them using connectives like the effect of this is, this leads to, therefore. So use connectives, okay? And also try and build in application marks, which you're going to be able to do from the scenario from the scenario itself. Okay, so obviously talking about factory A and factory B. Anyway, I'll type the response out. Okay, over on here, and then you can. So I'll leave that with you. Okay, so. So you can start off by talking about the usefulness. Okay, so you could say break-even analysis. So break-even analysis may be useful to the directors of, I think it's UJW. Okay, limited. I think it's limited. Okay. And the first point we're going to talk about is it may be useful to the directors of UJW Limited. This is because it can support management decisions. Okay. As it may be helpful in supporting Okay, this is because break-even can be calculated. So for example, if you use the data here, okay, now for example, if you might need to refer to your notes from the previous question, but we worked out for, I think the first question was 5 marks, and it mentioned calculate break-even for factory A. Okay, so one of the benefits of break-even analysis is it can support management decisions. This is because break-even can be calculated. For example, for factory A, they would need to sell 292 units to break even. Okay, and therefore management can use this data to compare. They can use the data to compare it to the break even of factory A, of factory B. Okay, so they can use it as a comparison. Now, if you read the question, it mentioned in the question that they are deciding to choose between, is it factory A or product A? Let's have a quick look. Factory A. There's two options being considered, two factories being considered, A or B. Okay, so they can use the data and they can compare it to the break-even of factory B. Okay, that's what we started off with. Okay, and therefore, and this could we could say break down complex information and allow them to choose the factory with a lower break-even, with a lower break-even, with the lower break-even units. Okay, so all we're saying is it might be useful to the management because it can support them in decision making. And for example, they can compare factory A with factory B. I've not worked out factory B, but you could work it out and put it in there. And then you could basically say that they could use that data, do a comparison. It breaks down complex information and it makes their decisions easier. Okay, obviously as a business owner, you would choose the product or the project, etc. that gives you a lower break even. Why? Because it would be easier to make a profit. Okay, so that would probably be the first paragraph. Now, the second paragraph, let me just put bold on so you can see it clearly. Okay, and then you could say, on the other hand, oh, it's gone. Let me just get it in bold. It might just be easier for you guys to see. On the other hand, it may not be useful, okay, as break-even analysis. Okay, as break-even analysis assumes. Now, one of the drawbacks of break-even analysis is that it assumes that you're going to break even. Okay, all units will be sold. Okay, and obviously the effect of this is, and therefore it could mislead directors' decisions. Okay, and potentially provide we could say that it assumes that all units will be sold and therefore could mislead directors' decisions and potentially indicate the wrong decision with false hope. Okay, obviously when you calculate break even, you pick the one that's lower on the assumption that, you know, you're going to sell everything out. That actually could mislead directors, providing them with false hope. Okay, now obviously if you look at the sort of content that I've written, I've not written enough for the second point, so you can always add in a second point, and you could say furthermore. Okay, it doesn't account it doesn't take into account, obviously break-even focuses on financial data. It doesn't consider what we would call qualitative data. It considers quantitative data, okay? But it also doesn't take into account changes. So for example, for factory A or factory B, what happens if there's a rise in inflation? At the moment, obviously, we're in 2023, inflation is around 10%, and obviously businesses are starting to charge more. What about for factory A, factory B? What if something happens in the next 3 months or 2 months? There's a change in the economic state. It doesn't consider that. It doesn't consider qualitative factors. Okay, so it doesn't take into account changes, e.g., inflation or price rises, or inflation slash, where's my slash on here? Slash price rises, or external influences. Okay, it doesn't consider that. And therefore, the tool, not Google, the tool is idealistic and not realistic. Okay. And what else can we say? Obviously, we're considering the changes. This would result in break-even needing to be calculated on several occasions, because obviously the data is, we have to change it ourselves. It's not going to automatically change. If we have a price rise, it's not going to automatically change and give you a new break-even. We've got to keep calculating it. This would result in break-even needing to be calculated on several occasions. Okay, each time a cost changes to be calculated, we could just cut that out. Each time a cost changes, or each time changes occur. Okay, resulting in too much management time being consumed. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So quick recap, what we're saying is, that's our answer there. You can sort of just pause there if you want. But yeah, what we're saying is, the first one is, you know, it's useful, it supports management, they can use it to calculate the number of units to achieve no profit, no loss. And they can use it for comparison purposes, which breaks down complex information, and it gives them a clear indicator on what to go for. On the other hand, it may not be useful because it assumes that all items are going to be sold. That could mislead directors' decisions, give them the wrong decision. But it also doesn't take into account inflation or external influences or qualitative factors. And therefore, the tool is, in an ideal world, it tells you what's going to happen, not in a realistic world. Okay, and that obviously would result in us as a management of a company, we're going to have to calculate it regularly. Every time a cost changes, we're going to have to recalculate. That's time consuming for management, okay? And that's why it may not be useful, okay? So that's pretty much just an example of a 6 marker towards the top end with application, with a clear chain of analysis. You can have a look at the mark scheme. There are other points on there that you can talk about, but just remember, try and have have a contrasting argument for and against, clear chain, build in application. You must do that. A lot of students, they just think about, oh yeah, I've learned benefits and drawbacks of break even. Then they start talking about it. They don't talk about the previous scenario, and you lose application marks, and something like that will limit you in your answer. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I'll put some more videos up shortly, but yeah, I'll leave it there for you. Thank you for watching.